As a word of introduction, we're now at 46, the last line, 46b. We discussed yesterday at the Mishnah the machloket, the disputation between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua in regards to Isah Tme'ah. We discussed the first day and the last day of Pesach. If a person take challah and he take hafrashat challah, he take a part and he tied it as a challah, now he has a very complicated problem. If you go and you bake it in the regular oven, you can't do it. Why? Because we explained yesterday, the Torah said, Lo ta'aseh kol melacha. You should not do any type of work. So the only melacha we're allowed to do, it's called melechet ochel nefesh. Melacha that we do for the immediate need. Now, this is, as the Mishnah said, chalat me'ah. We explained yesterday that the challah is in a state of ritual impurity. So it's not befitting, it's not befitting to eat. So you do not have here ochel nefesh. Because what is ochel nefesh? Something that you need to eat in immediate manner. So you cannot eat it. So what's next? You cannot leave it as is. Now, you tell me, why you cannot leave it as is? It is Pesach. So what's the problem? You cannot leave chametz in your house. 11 bread, we are forbidden to live in our house. Why? The Torah said, you remember? Bal yira'eh u'bal yimatzeh. You cannot have it, you cannot see it. So, now, the next thing. You may think, okay, I can give it to my dog, or I can burn it. You cannot do it. Why? We study that en sofin kodashim b'yom tov. We're not allowed to burn something that is sacred during the festival. Now, just remember that in a regular festival, it's not an issue. Good morning.
Morning, Rabbi.
In a regular festival, it's not an issue. But in Pesach, it's a serious issue. So here, the Mishnah, what Rabbi Eliezer said, you know what? Take batzek, take this dough, and you do not make a frashat challah. Do not separate a type. You just cook, bake this matzot, and when you pull it out of the oven, then Rabbi Eliezer said you make an afrashat challah. So you have now a full matzah, and you have the issue of lo ta'aseh kol melacha. You should not do any type of work. However, you can make hafrashat challah. You can take a type from that dough, from every chaticha vechaticha bifnei atzma. Every portion independently you can take a dough. So now I went ahead and I cooked matzah, baked matzah for the purpose of matzah, and I take hafrashat challah, a separate part. And according to Rabbi Eliezer, that's the way to do it. Ben Beteira, you remember we studied yesterday Ben Beteira, he came in and said, if b'diavad he's already did hafrashat challah, what do? You put it in a cold freezing water, and what then happened? It will not carry, is not yavori dei chimutz. It's not come to be leavening. Then we have Rabbi Yoshua, that he said he should take a tithe and yafrish challah, and he should leave it after Yom Tov, and if he turned, that is machmitz yachmitz, that if it turned to be 11 bread, it will be 11 bread. Why? Because remember we said bal yira'eh u'bal yimatzeh according to Rabbi Yoshua, meaning שלך אתה רואה, אבל אתה רואה של אחרים ושל הקדש, which means you cannot see it. But something that belongs to someone else, it's not an issue by him. So it's not it's not belong to the Kohen yet, so it's not in violation, and it's not an issue here. Now, what we derive from that? We derive from that the famous machloket, ro'im or en ro'im. And we discussed it yesterday at length, meaning Rabbi Eliezer said that this is considering part of his wealth, part of his monetary asset, and therefore he cannot take part and make a Farshat Chala at that stage. But according to Rabbi Yoshua, he said you cannot call it ho'il, you cannot consider that as part of his assets, so it's not considering Bali Ra'eh, and therefore all this machloket we explained yesterday is based on juxtaposition to another machloket between Rava and Rav Chizda. We brought the whole concept of cooking from Yom Tov LeShabbat, and we explained that biblically speaking you can do it because it's not an issue of achana. The only we have is a rabbinic decree to make an Eruv Tavshili, and we explained yesterday at length the concept of Eruv Tavshili. So the key is, just in one word, it's called nikar. You see it, you recognize it. So lo bali de takala, a person not come to make a mistake. So Rav Chizda said, since you can prepare, meaning bake, cook from Yom Tov to Shabbat, so you don't have an issue. So now here you have like, not, I'm saying it lucidly, it is like attacking now between the two over their opinions. That there is a very heavy disputation between the two. They try to bring different sources to prove their point. So we are the last line of page 46b. So there is a company in Baltimore, Rosendorf, and if you pay attention, some of the challah roll on Shabbat contain 12 small rolls that wrap up as one roll. And it's based of a lechem apanim, the showbread that they used to have in the time of Beit HaMikdash, the temple time. Amen. And it was the 12 challah roll that they used to bake every eve of Shabbat, meaning before Shabbat, and it was stay on that table, special table on the Beit HaMikdash, until the following week. That then they changed it to a new one. So it's a very famous Gemarrah in Menachot. If you remember, we studied it. That it was a different shifts, and it was 10 for the existing mishmer, the existing shift, and the 2 they made for the following one. It's a big discussion, but here he brings a proof that is a Gemarrah, Tractate Menachot, page 100. So he said, Eitivei lechem apanim. He asked him, how about the showbread? Page 47a. Ne'echal letish'a ולעשרה ולאחד-עשר, לא פחות ולא יותר. So that showbread can be eaten on the 9th, which means the 9th day of the time that they cook it, which means that it's past the 9 days. Sometimes for the 10th day, sometimes 11, but never before and never after. Ketzad. Give me an example. Kedarko, in a regular way, letish'a. As follows. Ne'efa be'erev Shabbat, can cook on Friday, v'ne'echal b'Shabbat, and you can eat it at the following Shabbat. Letish'a, usually they make the showbread on Friday, and the next day they set them up on a table. On Shabbat they're taking that and it's be eaten by the Kohanim, meaning that everything wrap up and eaten at the 9th day of his baking. So they said, Chal Yom Tov liot be'erev Shabbat. What happened if the festival occurred on Thursday? So now we said Echal la Shabbat. You're going and eat it the following Shabbat. La'asara, if it's at the 10th day. Shnei yamim tovim shel Rosh Hashanah, which means that it's the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is the only festival that they celebrated at 2 days. Why it's 2 days? So we explain that it was at that time they used, this is a famous Gemarrah in Rosh Hashanah, they used to make a kiddush al pi hariyah, they used to sanctify the month by having those witnesses go and testified in the rabbinic court that they saw on the top of the mountain, etc. And according to their Eidut, the witnesses, they determine. So that's very important to understand that Rosh Hashanah, in that very basic understanding, when is Rosh Hashanah?
If it's on, would be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
So if you go originally by the Gemarrah in Rosh Hashanah, it's only the first day of Tishrei. It's like all the other months. It's just 1 day. However, the sages came with the takana, with the decree, that they want to say that Shelo Yishakach Torah, that it's they have explanation there in the Gemarrah in Rosh Hashanah, but the whole idea is the entire year is just 1 day. But here is the 30 days of Elul, and we have a problem. Why? The witnesses coming. Now they are appear in the court, right? And they said Molad Hayom. They said that today is the Rosh Chodesh. So Beit Din sanctified the new month. Now we have the 30 days of Elul. We have the first day of Tishrei. So if it's a Thursday and Friday, it's a regular secular day. It's a Yom Chol, total Yom Chol. Now the Gemarrah explained in Rosh Hashanah, page 30, that it's a very famous statement from Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. We live close to the era of the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. He made a takana, he made a decree not to accept witnesses mina mincha v'mala, from the mincha's time and onward, not to accept witnesses. The whole idea of that, the song of the day that they passed, say, I just give you the abbreviation. The key point is, in order for people not to belittle it, lo lezalzel, that they don't take it lightly. So you figure out that people will say as follows: guess what? Last year I didn't walk all day, and guess what happened? It wasn't even Rosh Hashanah. The Rosh Hashanah was the following day. So then they belittle all the whole concept here, the Bet Din. And so there they put a takana and they said today and tomorrow both they are sanctified. So it means, as a consequence of that Thursday and Friday it's a Rosh Hashanah. It's the only time that they make it 2 days. Okay? Now, if we bring this a showbread, it's on Wednesday. So Rashi here explains that שני ימים של ראש השנה חלו בחמישי ושישי. So it's a Thursday and Friday. כגון שבאו עדים מן המנחה ולמעלה, that the witnesses come late. They come, they pass mincha. Remember, we just said that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said that we aren't accepting them at that. So דתנן נוהגים אותו היום קודש ולמחר קודש, that we sanctified both days, נאפה ברביעי בשבת ונאכל בשבת שנייה ל11. So it means that Va'u Shabbat Lav Tzomu, it's not already the considering that first day. So basically the tzlach, Tziyun LeNefesh Chaya, which is the Noida Biyuda, he said, imagine a scenario that the witnesses come and pass the time of the mincha, but these witnesses are not the regular guys. They are obnoxious. And they standing there. And they said, no. It has to be, etc., etc. So as a result, it turned to be 2 days of Yom Tov, 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. So it's a well-known story that the Khatam Sofer, the great rabbi, said in his book that when he was a young man, he went to Noda B'Yehuda, the great rabbi of Prague, and he said to him, the Gemarrah said in Brachot that only only that apply when Chachmei Israel Yoshvim al Admatam, when the sages would dwell in the land. But it was a decree that it was a time that the sages swore in the land of Israel. So they make the sanctification of the month outside of Eretz Israel. And therefore, at that time, it's Eretz Israel. It's 2 days of Yom Tov, and Rabbi Yehuda agree with him. So here, just a side note. So Tosfot said here in the Ne'echal le'achadasar Yom that he said that it's that apply to the only not in the Beit HaMikdash, because it has which he called kedusha mamonit, they need pidyon. But anyway, back to our subject, what they said here, נאכל לשבת לעשרה, 2 ימים טובים של ראש השנה, נאכל לשבת ל-11, ולפי שלא דוחה, אינו דוחה לעוד השבת ליום טוב, because the showbread, it's not override or rules over the festival. So because it's speaking about chulin, about non-sacred, so that's applied. But what do you do with the showbread? That's kodashim. It is sanctified. So basically, you need to do preparation on Yom Tov, which is Friday, and then you eat on Shabbat, the following Shabbat. So it's always turned to be the 9th day. If you tell me by the Torah law, tzorchei Shabbat naasim biyom tov, if you tell me that what needs for Shabbat may be done on a festival, so that's the case, amaylu dachel biyom tov. So why the baking of the showbread on Shabbat on Shabbat override? Why no? Baking the showbread does not override Shabbat or a festival. So even by rabbinic law, you don't do what need for Shabbat during festival. But it is a principle that they have in Beit HaMikdash, that the sages, if you remember, we said it several times, that they did not put a decree in a rabbinic, not impose rabbinical decrees in the Beit HaMikdash. So what we have so far, one of the need for Shabbat is the showbread. So because it's taken out of the table and you eat it on Shabbat, prior to the Kohanim, so therefore Rav Chizda, he basically said that you can go ahead and cook, bake that showbread on Yom Tov in order to eat it the following Shabbat. What?
You put it on the table for the first Shabbat, and then they eat it the following Shabbat.
Yes, but
okay.
The thing is, even the sages forbids to do any type of work on Yom Tov for the purpose of Shabbat. But we have the rules that the rabbinic decree, it's called En Shvut B'Mikdash. Rabbinical decree, it's not applied those restrictions in a temple, which means that any labor that they applied Beit HaMikdash, it's in a sense override the rabbinic decree. So because Rabbah said that biblically speaking you cannot do any type of work on Yom Tov even for the purpose of Shabbat, so that's a possibility that the guest will come, as we said yesterday, and eat this food during the festival. But guest, the whole concept of guest is not applied to showbread, because you cannot eat it during the festival. So Rav Chizda responded and he said, Amar lei, you are right. If you talk biblically, what you need for Shabbat, you can do even on a festival. And it's all rabbinic. The whole prohibition of baking from the festival to Shabbat is rabbinic decree. But even the rabbis did not put that decree in a temple. Shvut krova hitiru, shvut rechaka lo hitiru. The rabbis allow when it's immediate follow the festival, which means that it's closed. But if something that it's a distant Shabbat, which means, as you said, David, Shabbat of the following week, they did not permit. So remember, the key point is that the rabbinic decree did not impose in Beit HaMikdash. So Rabbah asked further and he said, Ule Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Damar Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Asgan. Sgan is like the second in command of the high priest. So he said that the showbread דוחה את יום טוב ואינו דוחה את צום, that usually regular Yom Tov, you're allowed to bake for Shabbat, excluding one time, the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. Why? Because you don't eat it. It's not considering ochel nefesh. It's forbidden to eat.
Mm-hmm.
So you ask, ma'ikale meimar, what's the difference between korban rechoka, if it's proximate or not proximate? So according to the word of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, that he hold that you do not bake showbread on a festival, we see that they allow even a distance rabbinic decree that you don't need it for that day specifically in a Beit HaMikdash. So Rav Chizda responds and he said, Behapligi. This is the point that the first Tana disputed Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. Mar Sava, the first one, hold Shvut Rechoka itiru, Shvut Krova itiru, Shvut Rechoka lo itiru. Whatever you need for that particular day, the sages permit. But something at distance, they don't permit. Umar Sava, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel hold Shvut Rechoka itiru. That's something in distance, because you need to set up this showbread for this Shabbat that it's attached to a festival. If you don't set it now, you'll not be eating the following Shabbat. Therefore, baking and doing the festival, it's considering it's an attachment to the next Shabbat, and it's considering as a Shvut Krova. Now, some of the Rishonim said, if the showbread is not set up this Shabbat on a table, you cannot eat it the following Shabbat. But it's a long discussion among the Rishonim what exactly Rav Chizda responded. Anyway, so since we said that what we need for the Shabbat you can make on Yom Tov, take for example this year. We have this year Mitzvah Shem Rosh Hashanah. When is it? Thursday, Friday, beginning on Wednesday night. So if you make this arrangement in advance, so you can go ahead and prepare for the following Shabbat, which is we have here big bar mitzvah celebrations, right? So you need to prepare in advance. In that sense, you can go ahead and do something on Friday. Mativ Rav Mari. So Rav Mari asked Rav Chizda from the first half of the Mishnah that we just said, brought from the Tractate Menachot, page 100b. Shtei Alechem. Here we're speaking about the festival of Shavuot. The time of the temple, that was the bread that brought in the festival of Shavuot. That was called offering of two bread. That is a public offering that used to bring on the festival of Shavuot, and they used to wave those bread together with two what is called kvasim, two animals, two sheep.
Yeah, two sheep.
That was a public offering, and then the Kohanim aided upon completion of the work of that offering.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, אינן נאכלות לא פחות משניים, not before the day that they are baked, and ולא יותר על שלושה, and not past the third day of the baking. So they said, כיצד? Now we go to the specific. When the eve of the festival of Shavuot occurred in a regular day, ne'efot erev Yom Tov, they should be baked at the eve of festival of Shavuot. Ne'echalot liyom Tov, so you can go ahead and eat it the following festival. Leshnayim, meaning the second day of day baking it, which means Shavuot occurred on Friday, which is the second day, so you can bake Chal Yom Tov le'achar Shabbat. If the festival occurred after Shabbat, which is the first day of the week, meaning if it was the eve of Yom Tov, you cannot bake because it's Friday. or here it's if it's a Sunday, so you cannot do it because it's Shabbat. So what do? You have to go much earlier, which is what? On Friday. So, and that happened Chalot liyom tov, li shlosha, meaning it is the third day. Why is the third day? Because you bake it on Friday, and you have Saturday, and you have Sunday. But you cannot bake it neither on Shabbat nor on the festival of Shavuot. Why? לפי שאינה דוחה לא את השבת ולא את יום טוב, because it's not override neither Shabbat nor festival. ואי אמרת, ואיף you רב חיסדא said, צורכי שבת נעשים ביום טוב, that the need of Shabbat you can do on Yom Tov, on the festival, the Yom Tov b'Yom Tov mibaya. So why you cannot have these two bread on the festival of Shavuot? So here we have a Rashi, and Rashi is deep here, because Rashi said in the Bura Matchil b'Yom Tov, and he said שמע מינן מותר ביום טוב מן התורה לדבר הראוי לאותה שעה וצורכי שבת אמר ומשום הואיל דאורחים. So Rashi said that from Yom Tov to Yom Tov you cannot do, because you cannot eat it right away. Tosfot attacked this Rashi and he said in the Bura Matchil v'Yamart, and he explained here that the whole process take place. You need to wait, Kabbalah, Holacha, Zrika. It's a long process of when we have the Korban, and then you have Zevach. Anyway, back to our subject. So they said the reason that you don't make these two bread on festival, it's because you cannot eat it right away. Upon completion of baking, you cannot eat it. Why? Shane atam, over there and baking the two bread, the Amar Kra, because the Torah said in the book of Shmot in Exodus 12, Ach asher yachel lechol nefesh ulevado yaseh lachem, whatever it's eaten for the nefesh, for the bread, it will, for the person, those bread that eaten for the person, that's only make for yourself, lachem, which means for yourself, velo lagavoa, and not for something that it's for the offering. And making this baking two bread, it's for the highest level, the offering. So meaning, if you derive from that, the showbread is forbidden, biblically speaking, from the festival to Shabbat, even according to Rav Chizda, the hold that what need for Shabbat you can make on Yom Tov. Why? Because the whole concept of lachem apply to yourself, but not for the Beit HaMikdash. So lachem velo lagavoa, for you and not for the Beit HaMikdash. So he said, you in general it's human consumption, and Beit HaMikdash it's for the temple service. So he said, ולרבן שמעון בן גמליאל דאמר משום רבי שמעון בן הסגן דוחה את יום טוב, מה יקלה מימר. So according to Rabban Shimon Gamliel, that he said in the second deputy second, that baking the two bread, it's override the festival of Shavuot, which means that you can bake them during the Shavuot. How he explained this line of lachem. סבר לה כאבא שאול ואמר, that's the tractate ביצה page 20, לכם ולא לנוכרים. The word for yourself apply to you, but not for the non-Jew, which means for the sake of the temple service, it's permitted, but not for others. So that's basically according to Rashi. Tosfot have a different view. He said that that's in addition to that work you give to the non-Jew. So now we go the other way around. What?
And this also saying that you could bake for you, right? But you can't bake like to give a non-Jew.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
For that concept, yes. For here, yes.
Okay.
It's basically applied to yourself. You need immediate food, so you can do it.
I'm talking about any food on Yom Tov.
Yeah.
Yeah, not just baking. Is that you do it for
yourself.
for you to use on Yom Tov.
Right.
You can't give it to nobody else.
Well, right. That's the point is for you.
That's something that you need right away to eat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now Rav Chizda go the other way around. שלח לרב חיסדא לרב ביד רב אחא בר רבונה. מי אמריננו הועיל? You go back and you said that we hold this the whole concept of הועיל. The Atnan, that's a source for Mishnah in Tractate Makot, page 21. יש חורש תלם אחד וחייבים עליה משום 8 להבים. So if a person on Shabbat take a plowing machine and he made one charitz, one hole in the ground, in some circumstance he can deserve, you know how many malkot? 312.
312.
Yes. Now they give an example how that happened. So they bring the combination of all, but we can derive a lot of things from that. Number 1, החורש בשור וחמור. The Torah forbids us to plow together with 2 different animals, 2 different species. And the rabbi says it's not necessarily ox and donkey, but it's anything that it's a mixing of the 2 different animals, it's forbidden. So someone who did it. And furthermore, number 2 and 3 is the hen, which means the ox and the donkey, mukdashim, and they are both consecrated. So he basically used something that belonged to the temple. Yes, the Hashem. The ox needs to be sacrificed on the altar, and someone gave this donkey a gift for the Beit HaMikdash, meaning that he in violation of the prohibition of working in something that belonged to Beit HaMikdash, but also he have a labor in something that is consecrated. Now, if
it could be like 2 firstborn.
Yeah, the Torah said, "Lo ta'avod bivchor shorecha." You're not allowed to do any type of labor with the firstborn from your ox. So, because it needs to be sacrificed on the altar, we derive from that you cannot derive in any animal that someone consecrated for the Beit HaMikdash. And you're not allowed to derive a benefit from something that is consecrated.
Since we're not doing sacrifice right now, let's say I have a farm and I have my firstborn, let's say ox. What I do with the ox? Do I sell it to...
No, David, you tell me.
Well, I'm not sure, but my understanding is it doesn't apply outside of Eretz Yisrael.
Okay, so first and foremost, just remember we said it so many times, we have a discussion here that doesn't have yet an halachic applications. Later we go to the practical halachot if there are some in this daf, but the key here, it's in our discussion how he accumulate a certain violation in one type together. Basically, yes, you do not have to bring the firstborn nowadays. So back here, what we said here, there is a concept called me'ilah bekodashim, that someone misuse something that is consecrated for the Beit HaMikdash. So if someone does that, according to the way Rashi understand, he deserves malkot. Okay, according to the Tosfot, there's an issue with that, because Tosfot said here that you cannot give a malkot for someone that did some type of misuse. Why? Because the foundation of that is shve pruta, that's something that has some monetary value, and in order to make me'ilah, you have to have a monetary value, and therefore Tosfot disagree with the concept of malkot. But anyway, the next one is v'chil'ayin bakerem, which means you have here diverse food crops in the vineyard, which means this is the violation of the prohibition, because what happened, Rashi said that he covered this small seed, and he is basically violated the 4th prohibition, because he plow on the top of them. So by doing so, he covered them with dust, and it's the same as he planted them. And he's violated what the Torah said, Lot tizra karmecha kil ayin. The Torah said in Deuteronomy 22, you shall not plant on your yards a diverse kind. 47b, Ushvi'it beyom tov. And it was in a sabbatical year, which means sabbatical year, agricultural labor is prohibited. And the Torah said, in the 7th year, Sadcha lo tizra, you should not plant seed in your field. So someone who cover those seeds, it's considering the same as zorea. The next one is beyom tov, and he did it on festival. So it's in violation of what the Torah said in Leviticus, Kol melechet avodah lo ta'asu, that this plowing, it's considering one of the prohibition on Yom Tov. Next one, he said, it happened that Kohen, that fellow also was a Kohen, ve Nazir, and that Kohen accept upon himself the Nazirite, Abeit Hatum'ah, that it was in a cemetery. So he over there became ritually impure by connecting to a corpse or to the cemetery, because the Torah said in Leviticus 21 that the Kohen not allowed to attach. So that's, you see here 8 different type of malkuyot, and here you have the combination of all together, as I said, is the 312. There is a Tosfot in Tractate Makot, page 22, that elaborate on that. We do not have the time. Anyway, Amrinan, so we said, Ho'il, V'i Amrinan, Ho'il, if we said this claim that he Ho'il acharisha lo lechayel, he should not liable for what? For plowing meaning doing Yom Tov, doing festival. Why? Ho'il vechazei lekisui dam tzipor. There is a mitzvah called kisui adam. So since the dirt, he loosened it as for covering the blood of the bird, so therefore the mitzvah is that if someone slaughter animal, he has the obligation to cover what's left. That's not applied to a regular beast. It's applied usually to fall, other type of animals. So the Gemarrah explained it in the 6th chapter of Tractate Chulin. So if that's the case, you said that a person is liable to receive malkot for plowing on Yom Tov. Why you think so? Because if you have a very large amount of animals that was slaughtered, let's say a very large amount of a foal, so he takes all these dust that he covered and use it for covering them on the festival. So he said, Amar Rav Papa bar Shmuel ba'avanim mekurzalot. So Tosfot explains that applied to a very sharp stones, but that either we say one way that it's soft, that you can use it for the purpose of zri'ah, or that those sharp one that it's in the field. But the key is that you cannot use it for covering of the blood. So either it's a soft or it's a sharp, depend on different interpretation, but you cannot use it for covering the blood. So the Gemara asks, Re'uyot lechodshan, but these clothes of dirt fit to be crushed and used to cover blood. So the Gemara said, Uchtisha biyom tov mishari, who told you that you're allowed to do it on the festival to crush in an unusual manner. So he said, the unusual way, it's like called shinui. So the whole idea of crushing, when it's allowed to do it, it's a concept of shinui. You do it in an unusual manner. You do it in a different way. So it's not considering type of labor, but at least by the biblical term. So if you go by this concept of oil, since we exempt the one who plowing from receiving malkot in this type of son on the festival, so therefore it's a different story. Biblically speaking, someone that does something in unusual manner is not liable. The whole idea is that it's rabbinic decree for doing so. So that's he responded and he said betzuma. You have to say that that's applied to what? He did it in the poor, hard and rocky soil which cannot be crushed. So they said tzuma bar zri'ah. So it is hard soil fit for planting. So because then he's not in violation of a lot izra, only in a place that's called makom haraui, something that it's befitting. So they said tzunma milamala va'afar tichoach milamata. So you have to say that in the top it was a hard soil above the friddle and loose or soil underneath. So they said v'teipuk le mishum afar tichoach. So if that's the case, it should be permitted due to the loosened soil, which is suitable for covering blood. So he said, no, that's applied to a plowing mud, which is not fit for covering blood. So they said, Vetina bar zri'ahu. So it's mud is fit for planting? For sure not. Because the Mishnah is talking about the ground that you use to plant a seeds. So the Gemarrah said, Bemetunta. We speak about soft, moist earth, which is suitable for planting, but which cannot be used to cover blood. So now we have a different avenue with all of that. That Rabbi asked if you follow by this concept of oil. Eiti ve'abayei. Now we go to the concept of Gidan Hashem. The Torah tells us in the book of Bereshit, famous story of Yaakov fought with the angels. So the Torah said in Bereshit, in Genesis chapter 32, that we are forbidden to eat the sinuous, the Gidan Hashem. That's the part that we have. How do you locate it? Between the
leg.
The part of the leg.
Yeah.
But it's come from the left, from the part of the spine down the leg. So it says the sinew. There is a chapter 7 in the Tractate Chulin that is a full explanation. So they said hamevashel begidan Hashem bechalav biyom tov. If one cooked a sciatic nerve in milk on festival, lokeh chamesh, he deserved 5 malkuyot, which means 5 times 40, because he's violated 5 negative commandments. How come? Lokeh mishum mevashel gid biyom tov. So the gid, the sciatic nerve, it's not befitting for baking, for cooking. Velokeh mishum ochel gid, and he's also deserved malkot because he ate the sciatic nerve. Velokeh mishum mevashel basar bechalav. We just read yesterday that he is basically a cook, a kid in its mother milk, which mean that's what the Torah said 3 times.
I got a question.
And one of them is cooking together.
I never hear nobody in this time cooking meat in milk. Do they have people do that?
Regardless if they do that or not, the Torah prohibited 3 different forms since it's repeated 3 times. And one of them is a prohibition against cooking them together. You may say, oh, someone had fun to do it. It's also forbidden. Anyway, next one, ולוקה משום אוכל בשר בחלב. He also deserved because eating mixture of milk and meat. ולוקה משום pag-aaral, because he basically lit the fire under that. He did it on Yom Tov, so if it's not אוכל נפש, it's forbidden. ואמרינן הואיל העברה לו לחייב. הואיל דחזה לצורכו. So if we say this principle, since הואיל, he should not be liable for kindling a fire unnecessarily, since the fire is fit for use in attending to his legitimate festival need, which is the cooking permitted food. Amar lei, so Abaye responded to him and he said, Apek pag-aaral ve'ayel gid anashe shel nevela. Remove the prohibition of kindling a fire from this list and add the prohibition of eating sciatic nerve from animal carcass that was not properly slaughtered. And in that sense, since you can use that fire that he cooked for other purposes, for cooking other food, that you can use them, so he cannot have the obligations to the responsibility for this type of cooking. אמר לי, הפק עברה והיה להגיד הנשה של נבלה. והתנא רבי חייא teaching different ברייתא, לוקים 2 על אכילתו. A person deserves 2 מלקות for eating, ו3 על בישולו, and 3 for burning fire on Yom Tov and cooking on Yom Tov, and for cooking mixture of milk and meat. ואי איתה 3 על אכילתו מבעלי. But if you tell me that Rabbah, that this Braita speaks about eating sciatic nerve from dead animal, so Rabbi Chia needs to teach us that he deserves 3 malkiyot for eating why? One is git anashe, the sciatic nerve. The second one is basar bechalav, mixture of milk and meat, and the third one is eating nevela, dead animal. Ela apik pag-aaral ve'ayel be'atzei muktzeh. He deserves malkot because he used a set aside wood during Yom Tov. So the Abaye asks, muktzeh d'oraita? Muktzeh, set aside, is rabbinic commandment, it's not biblical. So Amar lei ein, you can say that that's apply to biblical. Why? The Torah tells us when they collected the manna from heaven. So the Torah tells us in the book of Exodus, Shmot, chapter 16, והיה ביום השישי והכינו את אשר יביאו. So the children of Israel received manna during the 40 years that they were wandering in the desert. So, but it was not on Shabbat. Everyone received double portion on Friday. So here, in the sentence, we are obligated to bring the food on Friday for the purpose of Shabbat, and it's applied to either cook or bake. But here Rabbah said that if you don't do it in advance, so it's Rashi has said lo mezuman. So you have here achana, and is a sub-type of labor melacha. Therefore, it's love. So you deserve malkot. Ve'azharata mehacha. And the warning, it's not enough that the Torah prohibited, but you need also warning, because that's part of condition to receive punishment. So you see here 5 loving, and if you take out avara and you put in the nevela, which is the whole idea of using the atzei muktzeh. So he said, if that's the case, milot ta'aseh kol melacha, because the Torah said you should not do any type of labor. So you have to use only something that it was prepared in advance before Shabbat or before the festivals. So using that, doing Shabbat or festival, for something that wasn't ready before Shabbat or before the festival is considering a work, and is in violation of you shall not do a work. So now we reconcile this Braita that Rabbi Chia teaches us, that he is only in a violation of two negative commandments by eating it, which is the sciatica nerve and mixture of milk and meat, and also three negative commandments of cooking it, which is using a set aside wood, mixture of milk and meat, and cooking during the festival. So Omar Lei, so Abaye responded to Rabba, V'ha'at hu de'amart, you are the one who said, Be'ai minei me Rav Chizda, I asked Rav Chizda, Ve'amri lei, Be'ai minei me Rav Huna, Hevi se me'afar. So we need to prepare in advance something that you need to use the following day. Remember, we just talked about Eruvei Tavshilin. So he said, if we bring him you have those open fields, you see it on the farmland.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to prepare that in advance. If you don't prepare it, it's a problem. It's a violation. Ushchato tamid b'yom tov, which is olat zibur, that he used this offering on Yom Tov. Mahu was the halacha. Can you sacrifice it on the altar or not? Maybe you said that because it wasn't designated in advance for using on a festival, it's considering as a set aside and is invalid to bring it on the altar. Ve'at amart lan, you Rabbah told that. Amar li Allah, Rav Chizda or Rav Huna respond to me that what the prophet Ezekiel said in chapter 45, it was a nevu'at korbanot, a prophecy that he received in regards to offering. The sentence said, "V'seh achat min atzon min hamatayim mimashkei Yisrael." The prophet Ezekiel received in prophecy that, as we said, that bringing the firstborn, apply only to male. Rashi said, and Tosfot disagreed. Tosfot said that in regard to Pesach, it has to be seh tamim, it's unblemished seh. Anyway, they said seh ולא הבכור. אחת ולא מעשר. Meaning, you said lamb is referring to either male or female lamb, but not the firstborn, because it's applied only to male sheep. One, so not be brought from the animal type. minatzon, from the flock, ולא הפלגס. So there are two status option of bringing animals, two situations. One, when you have a sheep, right, mm-hmm. and is a year old, has to be, and when you have ayil, ram is a 2-year-old. So up to 12 months, it's considering sheep. From 13 and onward, it's considering ayil. What happened during the 12 months, between the 12 to 13, that period of time, it's called palgas, meaning that it's not befitting for offering, and you cannot bring it as an offering for the temple. So the palgas, it's coming out from the concept of sheep, but is not yet entered the domain of ayil, and therefore it's not befitting as offering. 48, min hamatayim, mimotar 200 shenishtayu babo. So when he said out of 200, so it's a truma betela, because chadash is from 100. So he said if the 200 it's expounded with regard to wine brought as a libation, that's part of the nesachim. So they said mimotar 200 shenishtayu babo, from remaining of 200 that remained in the pit, mikan leorla, we derive from that orla, which is the fruits in the early time before the 3rd year, she tarva So basically, ola, fruits that it's below the third year, and still on a tree, so the Torah forbidden to derive any benefit from that. Wine that came out of that fruits of ola, we cannot use it for libation. So he said here, mikan לעולה שבטלה ב-200. We derive from that ola offering, it's nullified in a mixture of 200. So wine that came out of ola, the mixture with 200, so we said that that's mitbatel, it's incorporated part of the mixture, and you can use it for libation. So the Sifri said that it's not the source, it's just asmachta, it's just some type of reformation of what we said. ממשקי ישראל, מן המותר לישראל. If you say that the well water pastures of Israel, meaning that the sacrifice may be offered only that which is permitted to Israel, מכאן אמרו, from here the sages derive, אין מביאים לנסחים מן התבל. You cannot bring an offering that come out of from untied produce, which means we're not allowed to eat tevel because it's not untied, because it has to be tied. We said that the fruit of Eretz Israel, they need to bring a truma and also tied, that's called tevel, and it's forbidden to eat until you take the tithe of all of them. So we derive from that line that all these forbidden food, you cannot, it's invalid for offering. So we derive from that you don't bring any type of libation that come out of wine of tevel.
So this only apply in Israel?
Israel and Beit HaMikdash, yes. First is a Rambam, Sefer Avodah, Ilchot Midim. Baking the showbread does not override either Shabbat or festival. Therefore, when the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah occurred on Thursday or Friday, the showbread must be baked on Wednesday. The showbread is always eaten on the following Shabbat. In the case of Rosh Hashanah occurred on Thursday or Friday, it is eaten on the 11th day from when it was baked. That's the Rambam, Ilchot Midim, chapter 5. And then on chapter 8, the Rambam said the baking of the 2 loaves offered on Shavuot does not override Shabbat of a festival, and consequently they must be baked before the festival begins. If the day before the festival occurs on Shabbat, the loaves must be baked on Friday. Therefore, there are times when the 2 loaves are eaten on the 3rd day after they have been baked. Another halacha is the palgas. That's Rambam, Sefer Avodah, Ilchot Maaseh HaKorbanot, chapter 1. A sheep between the age of 12 months, meaning 1 year, and 1 year and 30 days, which is the 13 months and onward, may not be offered as either a lamb nor a ram, because that's time in between. As we explained earlier, it's palgas. Palgas is a Greek word meaning an intermediate age between childhood and adulthood when it's applied to animals. We also dealt a little bit in Ilchot Ola. Ola, we explained that it's applied to produce. If produce from the first 3 years of a tree's growth become mixed with 200 times as much as permitted produce, the ola is nullified within the mixture. Ola below than 3 years. The grapevine is considered a tree in this regard. However, if it fell into a smaller amount of permitted produce, the mixture is forbidden. That's the Rambam, Sefer Kedusha Ilchot Ma'achalot Asurot, chapter 15. The last halacha, Nesachin min hatevel. It is prohibited to bring meal offering in the time of the temple, or libation from tevel, something that is not tight yet. And that's Rambam, Ilchot Avodah, Hilchot Isurei Mizbeach, chapter 5.